You were the special advisor and speechwriter to Shinzo Abe. How did he manage to succeed so well in terms of making that relationship between himself and Donald Trump so strong?
The first encounter that Prime Minister Abe had was the one with the then President-elect Trump that took place in November 8 years ago. And Donald Trump said to Prime Minister Abe that Prime Minister Abe should come visit Trump family on the penthouse of Trump Tower in Manhattan alone by himself. So he did so, although he was with his trusted interpreter. So those two men went up to the penthouse and met Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was very much grateful because he was gutsy. He paid absolutely no interest in what CNN, New York Times, Washington Post would say to Donald Trump. So Shinzo Abe met Donald Trump as individuals in person. And Donald Trump immediately started to have very much good impression of Shinzo Abe. And Shinzo Abe used that first encounter as an opportunity to give sort of an ABC of the Indo-Pacific region's security situation to President-elect Trump. So there was no secret, there was no trick. Shinzo Abe brought himself all the way to the penthouse and met President-elect Trump as just an individual. And after he met Donald Trump, he came back to meet us, delegates. The first thing he told us, I remember very much vividly, is that Donald Trump in private was very much different from Donald Trump in public. Donald Trump was careful and quiet and very much a good listener to whatever Shinzo Abe had to say. So started was very much a good relationship. And to these two men, both were avid golfers, which was also important because over the 18 holes, you spend some 2.0, 2.5 or 3 hours. And that's a long discussion period one could have with the US president. So only Shinzo Abe, among other world leaders, was able to do such a sort of things with Donald Trump.
Obviously, the recent assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life made him recall his very special relationship with Shinzo Abe. Do you
Indeed.
And obviously that provides an even stronger connection between the two men. Is there any residual affection, you think, that Trump may have for Japan?
I frankly don't know, because Mr. Trump refused to meet Prime Minister Ishiba, even though Prime Minister Ishiba made a request that there should be a meeting between the two. And I think for Mr. Trump, Shinzo Abe's image is still very much big. And I think the Prime Minister of Japan, Prime Minister Ishiba, must work extra hard to win the mind and heart of this individual, Mr. Trump.
Captain Furuya, you have written about the free and open Indo-Pacific. This actually comes from Shinzo Abe, and that was adopted by Washington in the first Trump administration. Can you explain the role of Japan's Coast Guard in the rules-based order for Japan?
Yes. Actually, Japanese FOIP, free and open in the Pacific, has been changed slightly in years, but the Japanese Coast Guard is taking a primary role in free and open in the Pacific. The Japanese Coast Guard, there are two ways that the Japanese Coast Guard contributed to the Japanese FOIP. The one is the dialogues among Coast Guard agencies. The Japanese Coast Guard hosted 3 different international, multinational dialogue. One is a North Pacific Coast Guard Forum. This is a Coast Guard forum among the neighboring countries of North Pacific, so United States and Canada, Russia, China, South Korea, and Japan. So they are, kind of matured a Coast Guard agency. So we discuss about how to coordinate our operations. The second is Head of Asian Coast Guard Agencies meeting. Originally it was, started with ASEAN members and Hong Kong and Japan. But the number is increased substantially towards nowadays. The Turkey is a member state, France is also a member state, UK is observers. So the number is highly substantially increased, and then because those Coast Guard agencies are a mixture of the highly developed and then less developed Coast Guard agencies. So we are talking about how to coordinate search and rescue operations, for example, HADR operations, and how to develop our capabilities. So those are things that we discuss. And then lastly, the Coast Guard Global Summit. This is entire world, so we invited more, I think it is more than 70, 80 countries or agencies from all over the world. We showed our best practices so that we can find the best, the alternative options for the Coast Guard agencies. This increased the, the safe and secure ocean that can be used for the sea lanes of communication or, this maritime route for the essential goods, oil and gas.
And do you think it is the rise of China's Coast Guard that has raised the role and the significance, the influence of other coast guards in the region across the world?
Yes, there is pros and cons. On the plus side, the rise of Chinese Coast Guard means that there are many more assets at sea that can be engaged in search and rescue operations. For those who are in distress at sea, if there are more assets, their possibility to be rescued is increased. From that perspective, the Chinese Coast Guard rise is not always bad thing. But on the other hand, we have also seen in the South China Sea, there are collisions, confrontations, the use of water cannons, lasers, LRADs. Those are not really good aspects of the Chinese Coast Guard rise.
I mean, a lot is said of the Chinese Coast Guard having monster ships. I believe that they have 2 or 3 of those, but Japan will also be purchasing its own monster Coast Guard vessel.
Well, basically the purpose is totally different. The monster Coast Guard cutters by the Chinese Coast Guard is maybe it is the presence, and then they want to show their capabilities and maybe the cannons on board. But in case of Japanese Coast Guard, we want to have the base at sea. So just in case, for example, we had a huge earthquake in Noto Peninsula this New Year's Day. At that time, the roads are disrupted due to the earthquakes. The only sea road and maybe the air route is viable for the HADR operations. In order to counter such situations, we need to have such base. That's the original idea. So we are not going to show the how big it is or the presence itself, but we need to use that kind of ships for the base at sea.
Right. Professor Taniguchi, Donald Trump has spoken about ending the Ukraine or the Russian invasion of Ukraine in a day. When it comes to dealing with China, however, how successful, how capable do you think he can be? For example, do you think that he can stop the grey zone warfare that China is conducting in the East and South China Seas and around the Taiwan Strait? Or does he not have an interest in doing that?
He will be very much interested in getting engaged only if countries who face the threats from China themselves should take care of their own national security. If you look at the Philippines must do much, much more to strengthen its naval and coast guard capabilities, and perhaps air force capabilities as well. And Japan must do its own much, much more. Only when those nations, the Philippines, Japan, do their own fair share, then the United States, regardless of who the president of the day is, would be interested in getting engaged. You may say that there is a treaty between Japan and the United States, between the Philippines and the United States, but to look at what the paper says is one thing, but whether or not the United States will be delighted to put their own soldiers in harm's way is quite another. So it's very much important for countries such as the Philippines, Japan, and Taiwan to do their own fair share.